Do you find the internet overwhelming, or are you turning to AI to plan your trips? Don't do that. Instead, use this list of websites and apps to help plan your next trip and make navigating a new place easy as you travel with confidence.
Welcome to the Travel More podcast.
Each episode, we share custom itineraries, travel hacks, expert advice, and even stories of our past travel failures to help you level up your travel game.
I'm Shelly, a lover of plans, itineraries, and cheap flights. I'm an expert deal finder with one eye always on the budget.
And I'm Bruce, the improviser, ready to pick up where plans fail to turn letdowns into unexpected trip favorites. We're here to bust through barriers that stop you from making your travel dreams a reality.
So book that flight, buy the tickets, and say hello to your next adventure.
This is the Travel More Podcast. Welcome back to the Travel More Podcast.
Welcome.
We're almost done with summer school.
Almost. It feels like we just started.
It really does.
I feel like that's how always summer goes, though.
Yeah,
it's like it starts and you're like so excited for it, and then you literally blink, and then you're like, wait a minute, it's like almost over.
I know, and I can't complain too much because Shelly and I get, the summers off.
Yeah.
But it honestly feels like the summer is almost more stressful than the year because there's so much change.
Yeah, right. There's no
schedule.
Again, this is like first world problems, they say.
You can't complain, but
no, but yeah, there's not a lot of like regimen. Like,
No.
in the school year, you're like, okay, you have a time you wake up and you eat breakfast and you go to work and you come home and, you have like a routine. And then, yeah, in the summer, the routine is zero.
Well, it's like it's a Tuesday afternoon and you're having a drink and you're like, what's happening? Is
Yeah.
it the weekend?
Yeah,
Where are
well,
we going tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly. And as people who have the whole summer off, you definitely go places and you're like, where is everybody? And you're like, oh, yeah, I guess people work in the summer. It just feels very like, I don't know. It's a weird job.
And now people are turning off the podcast
Yeah.
saying, oh, well. Well, anyway, it's worth it because, the job during the school year, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of jobs that are a lot, but yeah, I'm grateful for my summers off. I'll say that.
Yes, for sure. And we get to put out more episodes and update you on some things, which today, first we were going to do just like websites for travel.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we talked about it, I kind of broke this down into two main parts with Shelly. And it kind of became like Shelly's list and my list.
Yeah,
Because
that's the funny part.
The first part of this is going to be all the like websites and apps that we use for booking and planning.
That would be me.
That'd be Shelly. She'll take care of all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second category are all the kind of tools that you use while traveling.
Yeah.
That typically are things that I usually am in charge of.
Right, yeah.
Navigating and transportation and, all those kind of things.
To be fair, I think if you looked at our phones, you would literally see like the different apps on each of our phones.
Yes.
Like I don't have like Babbel is one that you're definitely going to talk about. Like I don't have that.
Or like,
you know what I mean?
I have like 10 different transportation apps to purchase, like train tickets or taxis in different countries.
I have like 15 airline apps.
Yes, exactly.
So this is the thing. But I will say you will not find social media on this because I just want to put this out because we were talking about this in Italy. This trip I don't even know why, but like I started to kind of bookmark places that I saw on social media for our trip to Italy, and I put them all in this folder, which is actually a really cool, a good idea to do, not necessarily from social media, we'll talk about that in a second, but as you find places, you can add them to Google Maps.
Yep.
And save them into a folder, and then you can bring them up whenever. That is a good idea just to do, but I was doing it from like things I saw on social media while I was on maternity leave, and this was the only time I really did that, and then we got to Italy, and I was like, here are all the things I have, and then I was like, I don't even remember where I found these. And I kept thinking like, oh yeah, it was social media. And honestly, they weren't great.
No, they weren't great. And dude, talk about like all the American tourists somehow in the only place where there were like massive lines and groups of people all
and
herding
super
around.
Overpriced.
Yes, the influencer. It's definitely a strategy for some of these places. Because
yeah,
honestly, there was one that was like a gelato thing in Affogato.
It was great.
In Florence, that was great. But I'm sure you can get probably just as good of
Dude,
one.
you walked up and there was a line around the building and then people coming up being like, oh my gosh. Because it's like clearly they're doing the same thing. But like nowhere else did we go
there
that had a
wasn't
line.
And like just to put in perspective, I think there was a place you can get gelato on like every street corner.
Yeah,
So you could probably get this product anywhere else.
Also, wasn't it like €7 or €8?
It was like €9.
It was
I want to say.
€9.
Yeah. Oh, it was insane.
That's really
for an espresso
insane.
with some vanilla gelato.
Yeah.
And then
That's
like
wild.
a euro 50 more, I think, for some crushed pistachios,
Oh, yeah, you
which
the
we also
pistachio
bought.
one.
Anyway, yeah, so that's actually, we could talk about as a tool is Google Maps saving your how you research, but like beware influencer
Beware of
locations.
getting them all on social media.
Yeah.
And if you are going to get things on social media, I would suggest only getting them from people that like you kind of trust. Like don't just go to like the For You page and look up Italy or
Oh my
Florence or
gosh.
whatever and just start looking through reels. Because, well, one, if you do that, you'll notice that people start saying the same places over and over again. And there's a lot of food to be had in all over the world, not just the 10 places that get mentioned over and over again. So you'll find that. But it's okay to get stuff from social media. I would just suggest maybe finding a couple of people that you actually like kind of vibe with, and then maybe taking their suggestions. But see why.
Yeah,
Is
just be
everything
wary.
super, like, Instagrammable, like are all the dishes like pretty and like done a certain way, then I would be a little wary. Not that it's going to be bad, but you're probably going to be overpaying for it if it is good.
Yeah.
So anyways,
I think real quick on that too, not to talk a whole episode about social media, but
Yeah.
I think it's still a great idea to ask the people where you're traveling, like start at your accommodation
Yeah.
and then talk to people you meet and just
Yeah.
say like, what do you recommend around here?
Oh yeah, that's probably my
That
number
is one
one.
of the best ways.
Yeah,
So,
honestly, that and well, I can talk about this in a second. I'll keep this one in my brain.
yes.
I'll do it with a book.
All right. Well, anyway, so booking and planning, first category. Here are our top websites and or apps, and Shelly's gonna take this category.
Yeah, since this is my bread and butter here. So if you've been around at all, or you've like been in a room with me for more than 10 minutes, you know that I absolutely love Google Flights. Like it blows my mind that people don't use Google Flights for every single flight they've ever taken.
I know when people say that, like when they bought a flight, they went on like Delta's website to search for itineraries or whatever. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Literally, I think I had this conversation with my dad like 6 months ago, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, how are you not using Google Flights, Dad? So use Google Flights. Obviously, it's free. It's literally just Google for different flights. Now Southwest is even on it. It used to not be, but now it is.
Yeah, there are only a couple that weren't, and Southwest was one, and they
And
too
now it
have
is.
succumbed to the
Yes.
Google.
So it's just, you might as well check, right? And see what the cheapest flights are. They also will tell you leg room and carbon emissions and whether the prices are high or low. I mean, it's just like a plethora
It's
of data.
everything. And we've
Yeah.
talked about before, if you've listened, like
Yeah.
you could track things. So Google Flights.
And you book directly, like it tells you where those prices are valid, so you don't have to go through any weird, sketchy third party. It's the way to do it. So Google Flights. Also, if you're doing points and miles, adding that points path extension, Chrome extension, will tell you what things are in points and miles as well. So that's another free and easy thing to do if you're looking at not just cash bookings but points. So Google Map View for hotels, same idea. You just like are looking at Google in general, and you can search hotels, like hotels in Florence, and it will pull up a map and you can kind of like look around. I like this for a plethora of reasons. One, because you can kind of see what areas are hot spots. That can be good or bad depending on what you're looking for.
We talked about on our episode about
finding hotels.
Finding hotels
Yeah.
in expensive cities. Like you may
Right.
not always want to be in that hotspot. Like you don't want to stay in Times Square in New York City.
Right. Oh, but sometimes you do kind of want to stay in the
Yeah.
center of things. I think that our hotel in Rome, like, could have been a little more central, especially with a baby. I don't really
agree.
want to huck it out to the outskirts. So it can be good just for your knowledge, whether you want it or not. Plus, it does kind of give you an idea of what prices are in an area. So, like, if you're looking in one area and everything is like $400, $500, $600, $700, you're like, oh, okay, this is like something about this area is pricey.
And it may-
Kind of just
and-
gives you a lay of the land.
Right, and it may or may not be worth it.
Right, absolutely. But it does kind of give you an overview of like, oh, I see. Like, this is where the Trevi Fountain is. No wonder everything's $800 over here. It's you can kind of get it. Hostel World is good for hostels. Those are kind of like, they're very different. Again, we talked about like the ins and outs of them and how to find cheap accommodations in expensive cities. But they've kind of changed their game recently. They're not all just for like single backpackers looking to like share a bunk bed. There's definitely a lot of options. So that's another good one if you just cannot find things. Airbnbs, we don't use them. We really try to be pretty selective for when we use Airbnbs, just because we don't want to disrupt the housing market while we're
Yeah, some
while we're
places are better than
vacationing.
others, but still a good option if you need like more of an apartment.
Yeah, and then VRBOs, same idea. You're just looking for things.
I think VRBO is better if you have a very big group.
Yeah, we use it for our like yearly main trip with our family.
Yeah,
The
that's when you're like,
VRBOs.
if you want to rent a house or if you have a large group, that's a great tool to find rentals.
But booking, honestly, I would do direct. So I'm not gonna mention like Delta, JetBlue, United. Like, obviously all the airline and Hyatt and Marriott and all the big hotel brands. So finding a deal, which I'm about to talk about in a minute, is one thing, but actually booking, besides the things I just mentioned, I'm gonna be booking direct. There are a few times when I don't. Like, for example, we booked our tickets in Italy. Some of the ticketing websites were kind of hard to follow, so I ended up booking our train tickets on Trainline, which is technically a third party, but we had used it before, so we felt pretty confident. It was totally fine. Everything went exactly as planned, although I do think their seat map was wrong because our seats were kind of funky.
That's true.
Didn't matter to us, but this is the thing.
Yeah, that's part of it. We've talked about third parties before, and that's one of them. But
so you kind of have to. It's a little bit of a give and take, but Trainline was a lot easier to use. They had a better cancellation policy because we are technically a family now, and they have like a family cancellation. So
Trainline's a good one. I don't think we had that on here, but
no, but that's
again,
a good
like
booking.
These websites, they may not be the direct place you book, but just remember these are the best tools for booking and planning. But what that help you once you have that information, then you're generally going to want to go and actually book on the website of the place.
Yeah, like another example of that is I used Ferry Hopper to find the ferry that I wanted because it was just an easier website to manage than going to the million of different ferries, like the individual ferries in Naples. So I used Ferry Hopper to find the ferry I wanted and then went direct to that website like for that specific line and then bought it direct. So I'll do that too on Trainline sometimes, but I just couldn't. The website was confusing, and I didn't want to mess it up.
You're bringing us to our next top website, which is Rome to Rio.
I love Rome to Rio.
And I think, now that I'm thinking about this too, is as we list off, you're hearing us list a number of websites. I think there's kind of like a pyramid, a starting place. Your base is like Google Flights, and then you find a carrier that want, and then you go to the carrier and you book directly. Versus like Rome to Rio, you're trying to find out, how do I get from this city to this place? You start with Rome to Rio because it'll give you in general the various ways to go. But that's not when you're booking. So like Shell, you could use something like Trainline because trains can get tricky. You can see different fares. It's kind of like when flights are sold by different alliance members. But that's like step 2. So Rome to Rio tells you how you possibly might go. And then you have to start looking, well, where do I book? So like, what was the ferry one again?
Ferry Hopper.
Ferry Hopper. So if you're using boats, there could be several companies. So next you're going to say, well, I want to travel by boat because I know that's one of the common ways to get where I'm going.
Yeah, but wait, let's go back to Rome to Rio. So in case you don't know Rome to Rio, a good example of this is Italy because you can get there very many ways. So we're going Sorrento. Actually, we're going from Sant'Agata to Positano. So that's like a smaller city kind of up the mountain hill from Sorrento to Positano, which is kind of on the other side of the Amalfi Coast, even though technically that's not, Sorrento's not technically the Amalfi Coast, but we get the idea. That whole like area. It's kind of on the other side and it's on the water. So you can put that into Rome to Rio, those two places, and it will tell you like, okay, so to get there by bus, it's going to cost this much. It's going to take this long. And here are the companies that go that route.
Yes.
Or you can take a ferry, but to get there, you are going to take a bus first to the ferry. And then here's the ferry and the general price is this. And here are the different companies. So, and the other one is by bus, it'll be like, oh, you have to do the bus. Like you have to do this many transfers and these different lines, whatever. But it is an amazing tool because I've used it so many times, one, to get city to city, like I just talked about in Italy, but even when we go like on multi-country trips, just to see like, does it make more sense to fly, to this other country, or is a train a better idea?
Yeah.
Like how much does it cost versus how long does it take? Like even when I was going from Florence to Munich, I did Rome to Rio to see like, how long is this going to take on train versus flights versus taking a car, which we weren't going to drive. But, we can look at those two different things. And could you do that individually? Sure. But it is so much easier.
Yeah, it is really, it's way easier. And honestly, if you use Google Maps to try to do this, because it will give you options for like public transport,
It's
car.
not
I
always-
don't trust Google
yeah.
in this way.
No.
I would rather.
It told us it was going to take us some obscene amount of time. I can't even remember. I want to say it said like 2.5 hours or something to Pompeii on Google Maps when we looked.
Yes.
And it was like an hour.
Well, that's like Google also. There was a bus in Italy's a good example because we were just there. And you're gonna face this anywhere in the world you go because transportation changes. But in Italy, there was a bus that took us locally around Sorrento, the CETA bus, and I don't think it ever came up on Google.
Right.
It always came up with like a different type of commuter bus.
Yeah.
That was always longer. It had a different itinerary and schedule. So I would be like, why is it going to take an hour and 45 minutes when it's actually 20 minutes if you take this other bus that comes less frequently?
Yeah. And thankfully, and the only reason we even knew that is because in the documentation for our Airbnb, it said that Sorrento was 15 minutes away. So I was like, they're not lying to us. And then that's the only way we figured it out.
Always ask wherever your accommodations are, ask.
Yeah. But I just mean like if you didn't know that, you would think like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at Google right now, it takes an hour and a half.
Yeah,
so
well, that's the thing.
use
You gotta
Rome to Rio.
Rome to Rio, and then double check with your local whoever it is.
Yeah. Next up, I just told you I was kind of disappointed with my finds on social media for like food and things like that. So what do I use instead? 2 things. One, TripAdvisor is my go-to. I don't trust Yelp. I'm not
Yelp.
Yeah, I'm not a Yelp person. Google I trust for the reviews, but you can't just Google like what to eat in Florence. You're gonna get a million lists.
Yeah.
So instead, I always start with Cheap Eats on TripAdvisor, and kind of build my list from there. And another place I like to use is like forums, open forums. So I personally use Reddit a lot. I look at subreddit, like we're going to Panama, and like so I was looking at this like coffee subreddit thing because Panama is such a big coffee place, and that brought me to some amazing cafes that I saw, because that's like a specific place where people who love coffee go, not just like Panama.
Reddit can be a great place for location specific research.
Yes.
Because sometimes you get people who are local there, or there's like a lot of expat subreddits around, especially speaking as listeners, if you're from the United States and you're going there, then people have already kind of vetted this and they're like, yeah, this is where you want to go if you're not just doing the common thing you're seeing on Instagram.
Right. That's where I find some of the best stuff. So I use forums. I mean, Facebook has some forums. TripAdvisor has forums I've used, like the Rick Steves website. There's a few different places you can find forums, but I would say those are probably my favorite place to find kind of like hidden gems, or they're not always even hidden, but like good places to go. Because like exactly what you're saying, it's like real people's experience, not just people who are trying to make money on social media.
Yeah, not just influencers, and also not just trusting AI or some chatbot.
Gosh.
Do
AI.
not, please. It's going to make up crap.
Yeah, it's so funny. I really don't want to get on like a diatribe about AI, but I will say I have put in a few different inquiries just because I'm curious about places that I know a lot about and been like, plan me a day in this place. And I have found so many inaccuracies, so many. Like places that are closed for the next 2 years for renovations are coming up as like the number one thing to do with hours listed. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it's open 9 to 5. And it's like, actually, it's closed for the next 2 years. Like things like that where you're just like, oh my gosh. One time I looked up like things to ride at Disney while pregnant, when I was pregnant. And it literally brought a list of things you cannot ride. But it said what you can ride. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally just a list of things you can't ride.
Yeah.
Like crazy. Anyways.
Maybe one day it'll get there. But right now it's just not.
I don't know if it'll ever replace things like forums, because that's like real people's experience. And I guess it could just like take it all.
But I feel like it's more of a real time thing. Like you got to be able to sift through these things in a way that makes sense to you.
Not
that's
to
the thing. A machine learning.
Because I was just sifting through things, and there were some that looked great, like things I found, but I was like, yeah, that's not really for us though. Yeah. But it would have probably come up because a million people said something about it. Like, so it would have come up as the number one suggestion. And that's true. It was a number one suggestion, but it wasn't the best for us.
AI removes the human element.
Yeah. I'm not into it. Anyways, the last thing for me is looking at like what to do in the place. I often will look at Viator, Get Your Guide. I have more luck on Get Your Guide in terms of booking. Like I actually have something booked right now, in Panama for Get Your Guide. So I like the cancellation policy, has really good reviews. Do keep in mind that those places are like, they just hold tours, like they aren't the ones providing it. So you still have to do your due diligence in terms of vetting.
Like, is it a good tour?
Right, because it's not Get Your Guide that's putting it on. It's another company within Get Your Guide.
It's just a listing. Like,
yeah, kind of like Airbnb. So, you know, I can't like speak to all Get Your Guide tours, but they are good places to find things, and they have good cancellation policies, and it's a good place to like read multiple reviews. And you kind of, again, you start to see the lay of the land. Like, oh, clearly
this is
going to this place is very popular, so I should book tickets early, or, you know, whatever it is.
Well, that was like, we want to do Stonehenge. We went to London, and we realized pretty quick that like we weren't gonna rent a car, so
yeah, and it was like the easiest to get there.
Be a tour that we were gonna do, and that's just what most people do. And I was like, okay, well, let's find one.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, was it a super authentic, like off the beaten path tour? Absolutely not. But did it get us to all the places that we wanted to see in that one day?
There's only one way to go to Stonehenge. It's like, this is authentic. You're just there, you know, like whether you're going by your own car or bus, like.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that is mostly it for me in terms of planning and booking. I do feel like that's not that many, and it's because it cuts out the hours that I spend reading those threads about the places. So,
well, I think still these are all, some people might be going like, well, yeah, obviously Google, but still there's people we talk to that don't understand that you should be using these websites. And I think some, like Rome to Rio, that's one that may not everyone might know.
That's true.
And it can really be a headache figuring out how to get places. Because, you know, we take for granted things. Like, I'm going to use some of mine I'm about to talk about, which are mostly apps, and I have an iPhone, but I think most of these things are probably compatible. A lot of this has to do with transportation, because every country we've been to has a different structure of how you buy and what is common, how do you get around. And I think it's important to research that ahead of time, or else you're going to have a headache when you go somewhere.
Absolutely.
So anyway, let's go down the line. But I'm going to start actually with language. I love trying to learn a little bit of the language when I go somewhere. I've done pretty much all the apps out there.
Yeah, we actually have that whole episode where we like break it down.
But I actually really like Babbel. Babbel's become my favorite. I bought the lifetime access. It's not that expensive when you think about it, and there's often sales, so you can get like 70% off. Yeah, I think I probably spent $200 something. Yeah. But that's all of their languages and all of their tools. In some ways, if you've seen Duolingo, which is probably the most popular, I'd also recommend Duolingo if you don't want to pay anything at all. My only qualm with Duolingo is I feel like it spends too much time on the written and reading of the language, when it's like, I want to be able to speak a little bit.
Right, the apple is red.
And I think Babbel does a good job of that. There's actually, speaking of AI, this is a good use of AI. You can have AI conversations in context of things like ordering at a restaurant. And I feel like the language itself feels more authentic, like the way people would speak it, as opposed to the textbook, where Duo can be a little like textbook. So anyway, language learning, Babbel I recommend. Google Translate, you need to have it.
Oh my gosh. Google Translate can translate. We did this in Italy. It translates like menus and signage and things in real time. It literally is a camera. Like, you put your camera app up and it's like shows you what it is in English.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And it's pretty reliable.
Yeah.
I'd say, and like reliable enough that we had to translate just speaking to it and immediately someone reading it and speaking back, and it worked very well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, at the hospital.
Yeah.
Under pressure.
Our like quick hospital stint, everyone's okay.
Yes.
But yes, we had to, they didn't speak. We were in Italy, so of course, like, people don't speak perfect English.
No.
We never expect that. But you know, when you're trying to kind of talk medically, it's way hard.
Yeah,
to
or even just relay
back.
like what happened. It was easier to do a translation.
Yeah.
So it's really critical to have it. Apple also has a translate tool, but I think Google's is better.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got navigation. So I've never used Waze before. I usually always use Apple or Google, which I think is fine in the United States.
Yeah.
But Waze was like a must-have driving in Italy, especially because it told you where, if your path was going to cross into like a city section that was restricted.
Yeah.
Which will cost you like 200 plus euros every time you go through it.
Yeah.
So just know where you're going if you're driving, navigating sometimes.
I've heard that Waze is better internationally. Like, in general.
I think in general it is. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but
not either.
I have all three. So Apple, Google, Waze. But I think Waze is great. Check it out. Apple Calculator. We talked about this recently. I showed
you this.
The Apple Calculator? Yeah, this is definitely Shelly. This must have been a recent update.
It was, yeah.
But if you have an iPhone or any Apple device, the calculator now has a quick currency conversion.
I think it's in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yep. So
yeah, it's like the little calculator button in the bottom left hand. There's one that says convert, and if you click that, you can convert into all kinds of currencies, like, immediately. It's crazy.
It's really nice. So,
it is great.
Quick tool just to, if you didn't know. Okay, now transportation apps. So something I recommend is researching what kind of tickets you're going to buy, like bus, like we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's pretty convenient to just buy your tickets at the station, at the kiosk, or at a convenience store, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But there are times that I'm just like, if I could do this on an app, I'm going to.
You know what's a good example of that?
Mm-hmm.
When we were in Sweden.
Yes.
Remember? It was like the thing was not working to buy them at the station, or there wasn't even a thing to buy. That's what it was. There wasn't a way to buy them at the station. It wasn't one of those stations. Like, it was a smaller one that we were going in. Do you remember this?
Was
From
this
the cruise.
on the cruise?
Yeah.
Oh.
And we needed to take the bus, but the one that we were on
Yes.
wasn't like a full station. It was like a stop.
Okay, well, this is a perfect example because
Yes.
this ties into a couple things I'm about to say about cell service too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if you are not in a main station, sometimes it's not as easy to buy a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not a big metro, like there are a lot of subways now that you could just tap your credit card and go.
Yeah.
But I find that to be in like major cities like Rome or New York
Yeah.
or London. But if you're somewhere else where there's regular transportation, most people traveling there might just be using like monthly passes.
Yeah, yeah.
So to buy a single fare ticket can be tricky. So if
we had such trouble in
Yes.
Sweden. We had to download the app.
and then because I didn't have my regular cell service, I had to activate a travel pass so that I can get a text.
Right.
And this is my important. So we're going to jump over to Airalo, which I recommend if you want to just get data abroad and
Yeah.
not pay digital service. But there's a caveat.
Oh, well, Oralo also, just so you know, is an eSIM.
It's an eSIM.
In
right?
case you're curious.
So
So
what that
gives
means
you-
is that your phone will have data, but it's not going to be serviced. You're not going to be able to call and text your phone number.
Yeah.
So that's really important because if you need to make phone calls with your actual phone number or get text like SMS text, which you're going to need to if you're installing an app that you pay, you're
Yeah.
almost always going to have to verify it, and you're going to need to get a text message to do that.
Yep.
So before you
Can't tell you
travel,
how many times we've done that.
oh my god, with your bank, with like
Yeah.
a payment for something,
Yeah.
an app, do it ahead of time so you're already set up so that you don't get to that country and you're like, crap,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to pay however much money to turn on my travel pass, etc. So look
Travel
into that.
Pass is what Verizon calls
That's
their international
Verizon.
service. So if you're like, what is Travel Pass? He means just turning on your phone.
Just know,
abroad.
like, look at your carrier. The cell phone is important, right? Because we take it for granted just how quickly we have everything. So you got to know. But if you don't want to pay if you don't have international service with your cell carrier, I would look into Airalo,
Yeah.
which will give you data, which is all you really need, Wi-Fi and data.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got to make sure you're not just burning your data all the time.
Yeah.
So download entertainment ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like podcasts, music, ebooks, games, etc. And then set up your apps you think you might use and verify them and get your payment accounts set up
Yeah.
before you travel.
Mm-hmm.
And then have WhatsApp. That's the next important thing. So
Mm-hmm.
most everywhere in the world that I've been, literally like almost every continent I've been to,
Mm-hmm.
uses WhatsApp primarily because it's using data, like it's using digital data, not texting.
Yeah.
It's not cell service or like phone service in that way. So WhatsApp, you can still use your same number. Again, you'll verify it with a text to get WhatsApp ahead of time. But then you can pretty much message like almost everywhere I've gone. I feel like companies, they use WhatsApp.
Yep.
Airbnb users use WhatsApp. So it's a great way to message people.
Yeah, we used WhatsApp actually a lot on this last trip.
We did,
Yeah.
yes. So WhatsApp is really important for all the reasons we just talked about with cell service. And the last couple apps, they're kind of, not super necessary, but I just put like every air carrier, every like flight has an app, and I think it's helpful. The amount of times I've seen people not be able to pull up their boarding passes at an airport, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Just have the app like for Lufthansa or Delta or Aer Lingus, and have your boarding pass downloaded already in the app. It's so much easier.
Yeah, sometimes I also like take a picture of it just in case.
Yep.
I mean, that's not the most reliable. Sometimes I wonder if they change, but I don't know if they do. But I always have a picture just in case it doesn't come up.
Yeah, just have it. It's usually a QR code these days.
That's what I mean. I usually just screenshot it.
And then the last two, one is Find My. Well, this is for iPhone users.
Yeah.
But I think if you haven't heard it by now, you can get AirTags and put them in your luggage or just track your items in
Yeah.
that way. It can be really helpful.
It really helpful. I've seen a lot of people that have like tracked their own lost luggage and been like, it's here, and it's actually helped them get it back.
Yeah.
So it can be very helpful if you're going to be somewhere a long time or you just are nervous about losing your luggage. That's a good one.
That's great. And I don't think AirTags are very expensive.
No, I don't think so.
But the iPhone can be. So
Yeah, yeah.
if you're not an Apple user, well then sorry. But And the last one is something I never thought about before.
That's
but
because this is a
Shelley.
planner thing.
This is a planner thing.
This is not on the fly,
But-
which is, I also found this on a forum. So this is why I like forums. The Rick Steves audio guides. So we did Pompeii and the
Vatican museums.
yeah, and the Colosseum.
Yep. All of which have audio tours that you can pay for.
Right. And we would have, honestly, but,
Well,
we have the baby, and
yeah,
it just was kind of like, we're not going to be here long. We just want to see the main stops.
We didn't want to buy a tour.
We didn't want to buy a tour because of the baby. We weren't sure. So I saw that, Rick Steves has free audio tours, and we really liked it, especially the Pompeii one. We went
was
through
nice.
almost all of it.
Yeah, no, it's another thing you want to download ahead of time, but totally worth it. There's a lot of them. They're informative and they're free.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, speaking of free, we've talked about this before, but there are free walking tours you can take too a lot of times in cities.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you should always look at those.
Is that the website? Is it?
No, there's there's tons of websites.
Yeah, there are
You
many
just
for them.
look up
Just look
free walking tours in Porto, or something like that. The only thing is we've come across a lot of them that they weren't running every day because we go on kind of off time sometimes. We went to Porto in the winter and
yeah.
there were not any running. So, it's give and take, but those are also a good way to see the city. But always tip those people.
Yes.
They're not actually free because you got to tip. But
Definitely. So.
anyways, hopefully this helps. This is kind of an update to an episode that we did before. It's like, these are things we still use. These are some newer ones. And in 2025, this is what we suggest.
Yeah.
Well, hope that helps.
Hope it helps. And
We'll
thanks
see
for
you
listening.
next time.
See ya.
Did you know that every time you book a Disney or Universal vacation, you're paying for a service that you may not even be using?
Really?
That's right. Travel agent costs are added to your Disney or Universal vacation, whether you use one or not.
So you're telling me that I'm paying for something even though I'm not getting the help?
You got it. So next time you want to book a theme park vacation, make your money work for you. By booking with Magic Pass Travel, you'll get our expertise and years of experience without paying any extra and while supporting a small business.
Check out our show notes to find our contact information.
Can't wait to help you plan your next adventure.